morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, May 8th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. And it's a good day to have you on the show, Bill, because we're going to do nothing except talk about Ohio State football recruiting. Let's start with Dallas Gant. He's going to make his announcement, of course, next Tuesday. Linebacker from Toledo St. John's Jesuit. Is it all Buckeye? Just what's the latest on Dallas Gant?
Well, I certainly think, as we sit right now, that it's going to be Ohio State. He's got 5 schools: Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Penn State. But I think that the school that maybe is a challenger still to Ohio State would be Notre Dame. Michigan, the dark horse. But all indications to me are Ohio State next Tuesday, and if and when the Buckeyes get him, that'll be a huge get because he's a top linebacker prospect in Ohio, one of the best in the country. And, as the old saying goes, you just don't want to let the hometown guys, the home state guys, elite guys get away. And certainly Urban Meyer doesn't want to. He wants to lock up the borders of Ohio, and getting Gant is an important piece of that.
Yeah, that'll be a nice get for the Buckeyes, no question about it, if it does materialize. Sticking with linebackers, big-time linebacker prospects, Teradja Mitchell, number 2 inside linebacker in the country, number 27 overall player in the country, 5-star recruit according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Looking at the crystal ball, Dean, it says 53% Ohio State, 47% Florida State. Give us the latest. What's the latest with Teradja Mitchell? Do you think he'll be a Buckeye?
Well, I go right now slightly to Ohio State. I guess I would follow in this one the crystal ball, and that I'm slightly going to Ohio State right now. If I had to predict right now, it would absolutely be Ohio State. I do want to see how things go with his visit this weekend to Florida State. That's his last visit before he makes a decision on things, and his decision will come later this month or early June. I liken it a little bit to the Brenton Cox situation where I talked about how Brenton Cox, I thought, was going to Ohio State, and the onus was on Georgia on that last visit to Georgia to change his mind. They were not able to do that. He made the Georgia visit, but still came back with Ohio State as the school he wanted to go to. And I think it's much the same way with Teradja Mitchell. I think Ohio State is the school he wants to go to, and the onus is on Florida State to change his mind on this last visit. Will they do it? I don't think that's out of the question. Will they be able to change his mind? I don't think it's out of the question. But I think it's more likely that he does become a Buckeye.
New linebackers coach, or I should say he's not new now. First-year linebackers coach at Ohio State, Bill Davis, is among those that are recruiting Mitchell to Ohio State. I'm curious, and I know it's very early, but after 25 years away from the college game, Bill Davis was in the NFL for 25 years. How is he doing so far in the recruiting trail? Again, it being very early, the proof's going to be in the pudding when signing day rolls around, but you're more in tune with this than anybody. How's Bill Davis doing as a recruiter?
He's hit the ground running. If you're going to work for Urban Meyer, you're going to work at recruiting. That's one of the things that Urban Meyer, you have to be a good recruiter to get hired by Urban Meyer. That's the first thing he looks for when he goes to hire a coach. Are they going to be able to recruit? And Bill Davis has hit the ground running. I mean, he's out there working things. He's visiting the kids. I talked to a linebacker here, a linebacker there, and Bill Davis has stopped at my school, or I just I've talked to Bill Davis, or we're communicating daily. So that's a huge part of recruiting, is working at it, and Bill Davis is working at it. And then I think the other thing you touched on it, Dave, is that while he's been away from college football for a long time, he's actually using to his advantage the fact that he's been an NFL guy. And when I talk to recruits, when I talk to linebackers he's recruiting, one of the first things that most all of them say or bring up is that, he's an NFL guy. He can really help me get my game to that type of a level. He can teach me things. They talk about his knowledge, from working in the NFL. So that's all very much to Ohio State's advantage and Bill Davis's advantage as a recruiter.
That's great news for Ohio State, and it's not a surprise because I got a chance to interview Bill Davis along with other reporters during spring ball a couple times, and he's got a really good personality. You can tell he knows the game just, backwards and forwards. And I remember walking away from that interview thinking his time in the NFL, being away from the college game for 25 years, that's not going to be a detriment to him because he's going to be able to use that to his advantage, just like you said. And he's fresh now. He hasn't been recruiting for 25 years. Maybe he's a little more fresh on the recruiting trail than maybe a coach who doesn't enjoy it as much, maybe who's been doing it for 20 years. So it seems like a great fit. And as you mentioned, there's no way Urban Meyer would have hired him if he didn't think he was going to be a great recruiter. And I should point out, I think most people know this if there's any listener that doesn't, Bill Davis was around the program throughout all of last season as an advisor, just as a volunteer advisor. The guy is a former NFL defensive coordinator that's just on your staff as an advisor, and now he's the linebackers coach. So it's worked out really well. I want to ask you about a couple more recruits, and I'll let you go, Bill. Of course, Jackson Carman, number one offensive tackle recruit in the country, number one player in the state of Ohio. What is the latest with Jackson Carman? Do you think he'll be a Buckeye?
Yeah, I try to stay in contact as often as possible with Jackson because in my mind, he is the number one guy on the Ohio State board to add to this recruiting class. There's a huge need for offensive tackles in this class. Jackson Carman is the country's number one offensive tackle prospect, and he's right there in Ohio, a 60-minute or so drive down the road from Ohio State University. So he's the number one guy to get. Try to stay in contact with him often. Saw him down at the Cincinnati Elder camp not long ago. It's still Ohio State in my opinion. Ohio State is still 1A on his list with Clemson still 1B. He is though going to take his visits, and people keep wondering when is he going to jump on board and help out with the recruiting effort and all that as a public commitment. Well, it's just not going to happen. I mean, he has been very steadfast that he is going to go through the process. He's going to take official visits, and he's not going to decide until at least sometime in December. He's going to be an early graduate. He hasn't ruled out announcing it the Army All-American Bowl. That's possible, but he's going to be an early graduate, so he'll announce sometime in December or early January. And, yeah, I continue to like the Buckeyes' chances, very much so.
Let's move to the 2019 class. Local kid, Zach Harrison from Lewis Center, Olentangy, right here in the Columbus area. Talk about blowing up. As you pointed out to me, he's now moved up to the number 3 overall recruit in the country in the 2019 class, according to the 24/7 Sports in-house rankings. There's not a composite out yet for the 2019 class, but according to 24/7 Sports, he is the number 3 overall player in the country. Big kid, 6'6", 240 pounds already. Just tell us everything we need to know about him. What position is he going to play? Is he going to be a defensive end, tight end, maybe something else? Do you think he's going to be a Buckeye? Just what does the listener need to know about Zach Harrison, Bill?
Well, to begin with, I guess I've known Zach since he was maybe a middle school kid, maybe a little bit earlier than that. His sister played volleyball with my daughter at Olentangy Orange High School. I've known the family well for a number of years. Great family, great young man, and is going to be a great defensive end in college. He passes the look test with flying colors. He's, like you said, Dave, he's 6'6", 240 pounds, and just blowing up on the recruiting trail. He's got offers from everyone from Ohio State, Alabama just offered him recently. They were at his school, Georgia, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State. It's a who's list of college football powers. And the thing is with Zach, as the Orange coach told me just the other day, and as knowing Zach, he's taking it all in stride. It's not going to his head. It's not changing him one bit. The family, I'm sure, knowing his mom, they're going to evaluate all the schools. They're going to take a good look at her. They're not going to make a snap decision. But in the end, Urban Meyer has done a great job recruiting him, and Larry Johnson, of course, involved. In the end, I like the Buckeyes' chances. But again, I think they're going to go through the process some. When he's sure of his decision, he'll make it after all of his evaluations by him and his family.
Yeah, it's only, 21 months until signing day for Zach Harrison. So he's got some time. I think he's got some time to think about it if he wants to.
Yeah, he does. I don't think he's going to go all the way through the process like that, I think he'll be very analytical about making the decision, but I don't think he'll go all the way through and wait till January or February of his senior year. I'll be surprised based on what he's told me if he does that, but he will do the evaluations.
Well, great stuff as always from the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Really appreciate your insights, Bill, and really appreciate all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.